Hello lovely people! Quite the view to start a video with, right? So, as I was casually hanging out on Pat McGrath's website a few weeks ago, super casually, not stalking at all, I came across a part on the website, like a page. I will try to include a screenshot of it if I find it. And basically, what she says is that golds, like gold color, is one of her biggest inspirations. She loves gold and it's basically her alpha and omega. And finally something clicked in my mind as to why the hell there is a freaking gold in every fucking Pat McGrath palette ever. And it made sense to me. You know, if it's her favorite color, she includes it in every eyeshadow palette. You know, if someone gave me the opportunity to make eyeshadow palettes, you'd probably see a shade of green in each and every one of them, just because I can't help myself. So just like I can't help myself with green, she can't help herself with gold. So I figured, you know what, let's just bring all of the eyeshadow palettes out and just swatch the golds. Let's just see what's it about those golds. So I have all of my big mothership palettes. I have also the 6 pans over here. And I also have the 3 new quads. So there's a lot of gold that we have to go through, so let's just start swatching. Alright, let's start with the Subliminal palette, which is the mothership one. I think I'm going to do this in sort of like consecutive order with the mothership palettes and then switch to the small 6-pan palettes. But let's start with the first palette, so the Subliminal palette, where the only gold shade is this one over here, which is called Pale Gold 002, which looks like this. This is one of the classiest gold that I have in my collection. It sort of has this really cool tones to it. It has sort of like this like white base to it with a very intense cool tone gold duochrome. It is such a beautiful, beautiful shade. If you do like just a classic smoky eye with like a little bit of brown through your outer corner and just this eyeshadow on your lids, oh, it looks so, so beautiful. Next up we got my personal favorite eyeshadow palette from Pat McGrath, and that is the Sublime palette, where I would argue that the only gold shade that we truly have is this one here, and I'm not even sure that it really qualifies as a gold, because if I'm not mistaken she calls it a bronze. Let me just quickly pop out the card so we can check. Yeah, she calls this bronze 005. This is not even a gold shade, but you know what, for the heck of it, let's just swatch this shade. This is one of the more flaky shades in her collection, but it is just so beautiful and so incredibly sparkly and stunning. I love this shade. I'm not really sure whether VR Nectar would be considered a gold shade, but it has kind of like golden tones to it. So let's watch this one as well. This is my favorite shade in this palette. Oh, am I lying? Maybe this one's my favorite. No, I can't really decide between these two, okay? So VR Nectar is one of the most beautiful things that have ever like been made in the makeup world. It has a gorgeous golden base with shifting sparkles of pink and green. It is just stunning. There's no other word for it. Moving on to Mothership 3 Subversive, I can already tell you there isn't really what I would consider a classic gold, but there is sort of like this antique green gold in there, which is one of my favorite shades ever. It is this shade here, which is called Gigabyte. Gigabyte is just sheer perfection. I don't even know what else to say about it. It is this gorgeous green-leaning antique gold. So like I said, I wouldn't necessarily call this shade a classic gold, but it does have gold tones to it, so I figured let's include it for the heck of it and, you know, to not skip any of the Pat McGrath palettes. I don't have the Mothership 4 Decadence palette, but I am going to swatch Gold Standard for you later, because I have it in one of the small 6-pan palettes from last year. So let's now open up the Bronze Seduction palette, where the only shade I would consider really a gold or anything with a gold in it is this topper shade over here, which is completely freaking insane. This is the shade VR Astral... what was this? This is the shade Astral Luna Gold, which is absolutely insane. It has sort of this like white, almost lavender base to it, and sparkle that shifts from gold to almost neon green. Alright, last big mothership palette that I own at the moment, and the gold shade in here is one that doesn't super excite me much, but it's still a really pretty shade. It is one of the toppers. It is called Jubilee, and it has once again those antique green golden tones to it, but it is much less green compared to something like Gigabyte, for instance. It is a really pretty shade. It feels a little bit dry to the touch, but it applies on the eye really well, and I do actually quite like it. So there you have it, Jubilee from the Midnight Sun palette. Okay, moving into the small 6-pan palettes over here, I'm going to start with the only one that was not part of the Opulence collection. So let's swatch the gold from the La Vie and Rose palette. Oh, the gold in this palette is so gorgeous. That is the shade over here, which is gold nectar, if I'm not mistaken. Is it? Gold nectar is, oh my goodness, it is stunning. It's like, I don't know, it feels like a fucking cream. It's so amazing. So there you have it, gold nectar. Gold nectar has a super smooth formula to it, and when you put it on your eye, it really glows. Now that I look at it, it looks a little bit like it has the tones of the bronze shade from the Sublime palette, but it has much more gold to it than bronze, if that makes sense. Let's continue with the Opulence collection, so the holiday collection from last year, where the first gold I want to swatch for you is one of the most beautiful golds that I think I own in my collection, and that is this shade here, which was also originally, I think, in the Decadence palette. That is the shade Gold Standard. Gold Standard is like honey in an eyeshadow pan. It is so stunning. Let me do another swipe of this. Look at it. This is almost like a neon gold. It is so pretty. I love Gold Standard. Gold Standard is definitely one of my favorite golds from Pat. It's just really like honey in an eyeshadow pan, isn't it? Let's open up the Bronze Seduction palette. No, Bronze Ambition palette. No, Temptation, Jesus Christ. Okay. Let's open up the Bronze Temptation palette, where I'm not really sure that there is a shade that I would consider a gold. No, I don't think there's a gold in here, so let's skip this one and move on to Dark Star, where I'm pretty sure there is a gold. The name of that gold is... The name of that gold is Enraptured, and it is this one over here, and it actually makes me feel a lot like the shade from the La Vie and Rose palette. So let's swatch that. So that is the shade from the La Vie and Rose palette, and this is the gold from the Dark Star palette. You can see that they are still so much different from each other. They do look similar, but this one has a little bit more of like those yellowy tones compared to Enraptured. Enraptured is somehow like cooler in tone. And the last three golds I want to swatch for you are from her newest Opulence collection. Those are from the Blitz Astral quads. Let's give those a very quick swatch, although I sort of ran out of space, so I'm going to have to flip my hand to show you. So the beautiful gold in the Iconic Illumination gold is this one, which is sort of like a super gorgeous rose gold. The name of this shade is Bronze Gold 003, and it is definitely my favorite shade in this palette. I think it's my favorite shade in this palette. Actually, I think this one can qualify as a gold too. So let's swatch both of them. Alright, so this is the rosy gold shade. This has the most gorgeous tones to it, doesn't it? This is definitely not like any of her other golds. And then let's watch the topper shade, because I feel like the topper shade is actually quite golden in tone as well. It has again those like more cool toned gold tones. It's almost like a very cool toned gold, this topper. I really like it. I actually like this one more than I like the Astral Solstice shade from the Midnight Sun palette, which is very similar in texture and feel, but this one is just more golden, like champagne golden. Next up we have the Ritualistic Rose quad, where I have the shade over here, which is called Antique Gold 002, and I can already tell you, because I just filmed my Ritualistic Rose video, that this shade is very similar to Jubilee from the Midnight Sun palette. So this gold is very similar to this gold. They are a little bit different. This one is a little bit deeper and this one is just a little bit brighter, but they both have these like sort of antique gold vibes to them. And the last gold I have for you is from the Nocturnal Nirvana Blitz Astral quad, and I have never actually swatched that quad myself. The shade is called Iridescent Gold 003, and this is going to be also my first time ever swatching it. You can see this eyeshadow palette has been untouched, she's a virgin. This one reminds me again of those honey tones that you see a little bit in Enraptured here from the Dark Star palette. So I think this gold and this gold are quite similar. This one is a little bit deeper, but they are quite similar in tone. I really like these like honey sort of tinged golds. And let's do a little close-up of all the golds next to each other. Okay guys, I hope that you enjoyed this super chill video swatching Pat McGrath golds, and you had fun swatching all of these together with me. I was just really curious to swatch them all side by side. Let me know what you think. Which gold is your favorite? Do you have all of them? Do you have preferences for one over the other? Let's just chat about Pat's Alpha and Omega. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope to hang out with you soon. Bye!